The room was silent except for the low hum of strange machines. Metal walls shined with cold light, smooth and without any mark of comfort. In the center of the chamber, a girl was trapped. Her arms and legs were locked by glowing chains that pulsed like living veins. Each time the chains pulsed, a shiver went through her body, as if the chains were feeding on her strength. She looked young, but her eyes told a different story. They were bright, filled with the spark of intelligence and fear mixed together. She was not human. Her skin was pale silver, smooth and soft like crystal. Her hair floated around her head like strands of light, glowing faintly in the darkness. She was an alien girl, far from home, caught in the grip of creatures who wanted nothing good for her. Shadows moved beyond the chamber door. She could hear them whispering, their voices rough and sharp like blades. She could not understand every word, but the tone was clear: hunger, greed, and cruelty. They were waiting for the right moment, the moment to take her life away or worse. Her heart pounded in her chest. She pulled against the chains, but they did not move. Instead, they tightened, sending a burning pain through her wrists. She gasped, biting back a scream. She had been fighting for hours, maybe days. Time had lost meaning inside this prison. The door slid open with a hiss. A wave of foul air rushed inside. The girl held her breath as several figures entered the chamber. They were tall and twisted, with gray skin stretched over sharp bones. Their eyes glowed yellow and their teeth were long and jagged. Each step echoed in the chamber, heavy and cruel. The leader came forward. He was larger than the others, his body covered in black armor that looked grown, not built. His voice filled the room like thunder. "It is time," he growled. The other aliens hissed with excitement. They circled her like predators around prey. One of them reached out and touched the glowing chains. The chains pulsed brighter, and the girl felt a wave of weakness spread through her. Her head dropped, but she forced her eyes open. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. The leader leaned closer, his yellow eyes scanning her face. "You were born for this. Your bloodline carries the power we need. You cannot escape your fate." The girl's throat was dry, but she spoke, her voice shaking. "I will never be what you want." The leader laughed, a deep, cruel sound. "You don't have a choice." He raised his hand. The chamber lights dimmed and the chains began to shift, pulling her arms higher. A dark mist flowed across the floor, swirling around her legs. The air grew colder. She felt the walls closing in, as if the whole room wanted to crush her. Her heart raced faster. This was it. The moment she had feared since they captured her. She closed her eyes, whispering a silent prayer to the stars, to anyone who might hear her. But the stars were far away, and no one was coming. The aliens began to chant, their voices echoing like drums of war. The mist grew thicker, crawling up her body. She tried to scream, but her voice was drowned in the sound of their ritual. Then, the ground shook. It started as a low rumble, then grew into a violent crash. Dust fell from the ceiling. The aliens stopped their chant, their heads snapping toward the door. Another crash followed, louder this time, shaking the walls. The leader growled, raising his weapon. "What is this?" The girl forced her eyes open. Through the mist, she saw the chamber doors bend inward, metal groaning under the pressure of something outside. With a deafening roar, the doors burst open. Blinding light filled the room. Smoke poured in, and then, through the smoke, a figure appeared. It was not another alien. It was not a monster. It was a man, human. He stood tall in the doorway, his armor cracked and burned, but his eyes alive with fire. A strange weapon rested in his hands, glowing faintly. The aliens hissed in anger, their claws twitching, but the human did not move back. He stepped inside, the smoke curling around his silhouette. The girl's breath caught in her throat. She had never seen a human before, only heard stories. They said humans were weak, fragile, unworthy of the stars. But in that moment, as he faced the circle of alien beasts without fear, she wondered if those stories were wrong. Very wrong. The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the aliens looked unsure. And for the first time, the girl felt hope. The human's entrance. The smoke from the broken doors still floated in the chamber like ghostly clouds. The aliens shifted uneasily, their yellow eyes glowing, through the mist. None of them expected this. None of them thought anyone would dare step into their sacred chamber. The girl lifted her head, chains still tight around her arms. She blinked, trying to see clearly through the haze. The figure stood tall, his shadow stretched long against the walls. He was not huge, not covered in claws or armored scales like her captors. No, he was human. His armor was scarred, dented, burned in places. It looked as though he had walked through fire and kept moving. A glowing weapon rested in his hands, shaped like a rifle but humming with a strange energy the aliens did not understand. His helmet was cracked, exposing his face. A face marked with dirt and blood, but alive, fierce and unafraid. The leader alien snarled, stepping forward. A human? His voice was sharp with disbelief. This is a joke. The others laughed, their hisses echoing against the chamber walls. They called him weak, small, nothing. But the human did not flinch. He did not move back. Instead, he raised his weapon, pointing it directly at the leader's chest. His voice cut through the laughter, calm and cold. Let her go. The aliens fell silent. The girl's heart pounded. No one had ever spoken to the leader like that, not even his own kind. The leader tilted his head, amused. You dare walk into my hall, human insect? You dare speak to me as if you matter? He spread his arms wide, showing his massive body. Do you not see what we are? Do you not see what you are? The human's eyes narrowed. I see exactly what you are, cowards, hiding behind chains, feeding on the weak. The laughter stopped. The chamber grew colder. The leader's smile faded into a snarl. He raised his clawed hand and gave a sharp command. Kill him! The aliens leapt. Claws scraped the floor as they rushed forward, their bodies fast and brutal. The girl gasped, pulling against her chains. The human did not run. He did not hide. He lifted his weapon, pressed the trigger. A blast of light tore through the air. One alien dropped instantly, chest smoking, body twitching. The other stopped for only a second, shocked by the power of the human's weapon. But then they roared and charged again, the chamber filled with chaos. The human moved like a storm, every motion sharp and precise. His weapon fired bolts of energy, cutting through the darkness. He dodged, rolled, struck with his fists when too close, and never gave ground. The girl watched in awe. His movements were not wild, not desperate. Every step had purpose, every shot a plan. He was smaller than them, weaker in muscle, but faster, smarter, and unwilling to break. Still, the numbers pressed hard against him. One alien slammed into his side, throwing him to the ground. His weapon slid across the floor, out of reach. The aliens hissed with victory, claws raised to tear him apart. The girl's heart stopped. Was this the end already? Had he come only to die before her eyes? But the human did not give up. He rolled, grabbed a shard of broken chain from the floor and drove it into the alien's throat. The creature screamed, black blood spraying across the chamber. The others howled with rage. The human staggered to his feet, blood on his face, but his eyes still burned with fire. He raised his fists, ready to fight even without his weapon. For the first time, the girl saw fear in her captor's eyes. They had fought many creatures across the stars, but never had they faced something like this. One small human standing against them all, refusing to kneel. The leader growled, his voice shaking with fury. Enough! He stepped forward, towering above them all. His black armor cracked open at the chest, revealing a living core of fire and shadow. The ground shook as he approached. The girl felt her chains vibrate, pulling tighter, glowing brighter. She cried out in pain, her body trembling. The human turned his head, his eyes locking on hers. For just a second, everything else disappeared. The noise, the smoke, the fear. It all faded. She saw his expression, firm and unshaken, and she realized something. He had not come here by chance. He had come for her. The leader raised his arm, claws gleaming like blades. "You will die here. Human. Your bones will feed my fire." The human clenched his fists, standing tall even as blood dripped from his lips. His voice came out low, steady, like steel. "Try me." The chamber held its breath. The next moment would decide everything. The battle ignites. The chamber was silent for one breath. The human stood tall, fists tight, blood dripping slowly from a cut across his cheek. The alien leader's claws gleamed in the cold light, and his yellow eyes burned with rage. Then, like thunder, the order came. "Kill him!" the leader roared. The walls shook as the aliens rushed forward. Their claws scraped against the metal floor, their bodies moving fast and violent. Shadows blurred across the chamber. The girl gasped, chains rattling as she struggled. She wanted to look away, but she could not. She had never seen anything like this. The human moved first. Quick as lightning, he threw himself sideways, rolling across the floor. A claw swiped where his head had been, cutting only air. He came up with speed, grabbing his weapon from the ground. Energy flared as he fired. The blast tore through one alien's chest, dropping it instantly. The smell of burning flesh filled the chamber. The others hissed in anger, spreading out to surround him. The human's breath came hard, but his eyes stayed sharp. He fired again. One alien fell. He spun, ducked under a swinging claw, and slammed the butt of his weapon into another's jaw, sending teeth flying, but they were many, too many. Two leapt at once. He shot one, but the other crashed into him, driving him hard into the wall. His weapon clattered to the floor again. The alien's claws slashed across his armor, tearing it open. Sparks flew. The human grunted in pain but pushed back with all his strength. He slammed his knee into the alien's ribs, twisted, and grabbed a broken metal shard from the ground. With a roar, he drove it deep into the alien's throat. The creature shrieked, black blood spilling. The girl's eyes widened. She had never seen such fury. He was wounded, yet every move was precise, every strike fueled by willpower that refused to break. The other aliens hesitated, circling him. They hissed but did not attack. For a moment, fear flickered in their glowing eyes. The leader snarled, "Cowards, do not stop. Finish him." At his command, 3 attacked together. The chamber erupted in chaos. The human ducked and rolled, but one claw cut across his arm, leaving a deep wound. Blood spilled, but he ignored the pain. He swung the metal shard like a blade, cutting into another attacker. Energy sparks burst as claws met steel. The fight became a storm. The human moved with speed, but each blow cost him strength. His armor cracked, his breathing grew heavy. The aliens pressed harder, their weight overwhelming. The girl's chains glowed brighter, reacting to the chaos. Each time the human struck, the chains pulsed, as if feeding on his fight. She screamed as pain shot through her body, but still, she watched, her heart caught between fear and hope. One alien slammed the human to the ground. Another pinned his arm. His weapon lay just out of reach, claws raised high, ready to tear into his chest. The girl cried out, her voice breaking. "No!" The human's eyes locked on hers again. Even as claws closed in, even as blood dripped onto the floor, his gaze was steady. He refused to fall. With a sudden surge, he twisted his body, driving his boot into the alien's knee. Bone cracked. The creature screamed, falling back. The human rolled, grabbed his weapon, and fired point blank. The blast lit the chamber, tearing the alien apart. But the effort left him on one knee, gasping. His body trembled. His weapon hummed weakly, its power almost drained. The aliens regrouped, circling tighter. Their leader stepped forward, fury boiling in his voice. "Enough of this game. You are nothing, human. You will bleed for your arrogance." The human forced himself to stand. His chest heaved, blood running down his side. But his eyes still burned like fire. He raised his weapon again, even though it shook in his hands. He pointed it at the leader. His voice came out hoarse yet steady. "You'll have to kill me first." The leader growled, stepping closer. His black armor split wider, revealing the monstrous form beneath. Flames danced inside his chest, and his claws lengthened into jagged blades. The air grew hot, heavy with smoke and power. The girl felt her chains tighten again, glowing white-hot. She screamed as the energy burned through her, but something inside her stirred. The chains shook, cracks spreading along their glowing surface. The leader roared, his monstrous voice shaking the walls. "Then die, human!" he charged. The human braced himself, weapon raised for one last stand. The ground trembled, the walls rattled, the air screamed with power. And in that moment, with death rushing toward him, the girl's chains shattered. Light exploded across the chamber. The hidden power. The light burst like a star inside the chamber. For one moment, everything froze. The chains that had held the alien girl for so long shattered into 1,000 glowing fragments. Pieces rained down like sparks, dissolving into the air. The girl gasped, falling to her knees. For the first time since her capture, her arms were free. Her body shook from the sudden release, but more than that, something stirred deep inside her. Energy. Raw, ancient, burning through her veins. The leader stopped mid-charge, his monstrous claws raised high. His yellow eyes widened, anger mixing with shock. "Impossible!" he hissed. The other aliens stepped back, their hissing voices filled with unease. They had never seen the chains broken. No prisoner had ever escaped their grip. The human staggered, lowering his weapon, staring at her through the fading light. He had expected to die in that moment, but instead the impossible had happened. His breath came rough and broken, but his eyes stayed fixed on her. The girl pressed her hand to the floor. Light spread from her touch, crawling across the metal, like veins of fire. She trembled, confused and terrified. What is happening to me?" The leader snarled, his voice filled with rage. "Your bloodline, the power we sought, it awakens at last." He pointed a claw at her, his voice rising. "Do not think this human saves you. You are ours. You were always meant for this." Her heart raced. She wanted to run, to hide, but the energy inside her only grew. It surged through her chest, making her glow brighter. She could feel the human's eyes on her. He did not look afraid. He looked steady, as if silently telling her, "You can fight this. You are not alone." The human forced himself to move closer, even though blood still dripped from his wounds. He extended a hand toward her. His voice was hoarse but strong. "Trust me." The words struck her harder than the chains ever had. Trust. No one had ever spoken that to her in this place. No one had ever stood beside her. She hesitated, trembling, but then, slowly, she placed her glowing hand in his. A surge of light erupted where their hands met. The human staggered, but did not let go. The girl's power flowed into him, and for a heartbeat, it felt as if they shared one spirit. The leader roared, his monstrous body swelling with fire. "No, she is mine." He slammed his claws into the ground, sending a shockwave across the chamber. The human pulled the girl to her feet just as the ground split open. Flames rose around them. He shielded her with his body, even though his armor was nearly broken. She looked up at him, tears in her glowing eyes. Why would you risk everything for me?" He gave a faint, tired smile. "Because monsters don't win when humans fight." The words filled her with strength. Her fear began to burn away, replaced by something new, resolve. The energy inside her pulsed harder, responding not to the chains, not to fear, but to his will. The leader lunged again, claws cutting through the smoke. This time the girl did not hide. She raised her hand and a wave of light burst outward. The attack struck the leader, throwing him back across the chamber. His armor cracked, black fire spilling from the wound. The other aliens shrieked in panic. Some fled into the shadows. Others dropped to their knees, trembling at the sight of her unleashed power. The girl stared at her own hands, glowing brighter than ever. She did not understand how she had done it, but she knew one thing: she was no longer helpless. The human squeezed her hand gently, grounding her. "You're stronger than you think," he said. But even as hope flickered in her chest, the leader rose again, His body twisted further, flames consuming his flesh, turning him into a monstrous figure of shadow and fire. His voice roared like a storm. "You think this is over? You are mine, girl. You and your power will belong to me." The chamber shook. Walls cracked. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The girl's glow faltered, fear creeping back into her heart. She had power, but she had never fought before. She did not know how to control it. The human stepped in front of her, raising his weapon again even though it was almost drained. His body trembled, but his voice was firm. "You're not taking her." The girl's chest tightened. He was ready to die for her again, and she could not let that happen, not this time. Her hands clenched into fists, light blazing. She stepped forward beside him. Her voice shook, but her eyes were steady. "No," she whispered. "We fight together." The leader's roar echoed across the chamber, shaking the walls. The battle was far from over. But for the first time, the girl and the human stood side by side, not captor and victim, not savior and helpless. Two fighters, united by courage. And in that unity, a new story began. The Dark Secret. The chamber was broken and cracked, smoke swirling in the air. Pieces of shattered chains glowed faintly on the ground. The girl stood beside the human, her hands still glowing with strange energy. She was free, but she did not feel safe, not yet. Across the chamber, the alien leader rose from the rubble, his body twisted further, his armor splitting to reveal skin that burned with fire. Black smoke poured from his wounds, but his eyes still burned yellow, brighter than ever. The other aliens kept their distance, some trembling, some bowing low, in fear. None dared step closer. Only the leader's voice filled the room, sharp and cruel. "You think you are free, girl?" he growled. "You think this human has saved you?" He spread his monstrous claws, fire spilling between them. "You do not even understand what you are." The girl's heart pounded. She whispered, What am I?" The human stepped closer to her, weapon raised, ready to fire if needed. But he stayed silent, waiting for the leader's answer. The alien laughed, a deep sound that shook the walls. "Your people once ruled the stars. Long before humans crawled from the dirt, your kind held the power of creation itself. But they were weak. They scattered. They fell. Only their blood remained." His claws pointed at her chest. "Your blood." The girl trembled, unable to believe his words. She shook her head. "No, that cannot be true." The leader's voice grew darker. "Why do you think we captured you? Why do you think we bound you in chains older than your world? Your power was meant to serve us, to breed with the creatures of shadow, to create a new weapon, a perfect army. That was your purpose." Her stomach turned cold. She felt sick, as if the chains were still wrapped around her. All her life, she had been told she was ordinary, nothing special. And now this monster was telling her she carried the power of a lost empire in her blood. The human spoke at last, his voice steady and firm. "That's why you locked her away. Not because she was weak, because you were afraid." The leader snarled. His flames flared higher. "Afraid? We are gods compared to you humans. You are nothing, worms crawling on a forgotten world." But the human did not step back. His eyes were cold. "Then why does one human standing here make you so angry?" For a moment, the leader froze, his monstrous face twisted in rage. With a roar, he struck the floor with his claws, splitting the ground. "Enough of your words. You will both die here, and her blood will be mine." The girl stumbled back, fear rising again. The human caught her arm, steadying her. His voice was low, calm, almost gentle. "Don't listen to him. You decide who you are, not him." Her eyes met his. His face was cut and bleeding, his armor broken, yet he stood strong, unshaken. She felt warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, she believed his words. The leader advanced, his monstrous body glowing with fire. "She cannot run from her destiny. Her power will burn this galaxy to ash, whether she wills it or not. With or without me, It will consume her. The girl shook her head, tears in her eyes. No, I don't want to destroy. I don't want to be a weapon. The human raised his weapon again, standing between her and the monster. Then don't. You are more than what they want you to be. The leader's laughter shook the chamber. Again. Foolish human. You fight for her, but soon she will burn you as well. That is her fate. The human gritted his teeth, aiming straight at the leader's heart. Then I'll fight fate too. The girl's hands glowed brighter, her fear melting into anger. Not anger at herself, but at the creature who had stolen her freedom, who had tried to shape her into something she never wanted to be. The energy inside her pulsed, stronger than before. The air shimmered around her. She whispered, almost to herself, I am not your weapon. The leader roared in fury, his monstrous body expanding with fire. The chamber shook violently. Flames spread across the walls and pieces of the ceiling began to fall. The human pulled her closer. This place won't hold much longer. She looked at him, her voice shaking. We can't win against him. He's too strong. His eyes burned with fire. So was the cage. But you broke it. Her breath caught. The truth of his words struck her like lightning. She had broken the unbreakable. She was not powerless. Not anymore. The leader raised his claws, his voice echoing like thunder. You cannot escape. You will serve your true purpose. The girl lifted her glowing hands, light swirling around her like wings of fire. She stepped beside the human, her fear gone, her voice firm. My purpose is mine. The leader let out a roar so loud it cracked the ceiling. The final battle was coming. Last stand. The chamber burned. Flames licked the walls. Smoke filled the air, and the ground shook with every step of the alien leader. He was no longer just a commander of his kind. He was a monster of fire and shadow, claws stretching long, his body swollen with power. The girl stood trembling, her hands glowing, her heart racing. The human stood beside her, blood dripping from his wounds, weapon shaking in his grip. Both of them were weak, battered, and nearly broken, but neither stepped back. The leader's voice thundered, You dare defy me? You dare stand against destiny? His claws slammed down, sending shockwaves across the floor. Metal cracked, sparks shot into the air. The human braced himself, steadying his weapon. He spoke through gritted teeth. Destiny doesn't scare me. You do. The monster roared and charged. The human fired. Energy bolts exploded against the leader's chest, but the monster barely slowed. Smoke rose from the wounds, but the fire inside him healed fast. With one swing, his claws cut the air, forcing the human to dive aside. The floor split open where he had stood a second before. The girl cried out, raising her hands. Light surged from her palms, striking the leader's side. The blast knocked him back a step. For the first time, the monster groaned in pain. The girl's eyes widened. She could hurt him. The leader turned his blazing eyes toward her, fury burning hotter. You think your light can stop me? You are mine. He rushed at her. The human saw it and moved fast, throwing himself between them. The claws struck his chest plate, tearing it apart. Metal shredded. Blood sprayed. He fell to the ground with a cry. The girl screamed. She dropped to her knees beside him, her glowing hands shaking. No, no, please. The human coughed, blood on his lips, but his eyes locked on hers. His voice came weak, but steady. Don't stop. Her tears fell, glowing against his broken armor. The leader loomed above them, his monstrous form casting a shadow that swallowed the chamber. Pathetic, the leader growled. The human breaks, the girl will follow. You cannot win. The girl's hands tightened into fists. Something inside her snapped, not in fear, but in fury. She rose to her feet, light blazing around her like wings of fire. Her voice rang across the chamber. He is not broken, and I am not yours. Her power erupted, brighter than before. The flames of the leader bent backward, pressed down by her light. The other aliens watching from the shadows shrieked in terror, covering their faces. The leader roared, fighting against the wave of light. His claws lashed out, cutting through the glow, forcing her back. But she did not fall. She held her ground. Even as the chamber shook violently, the human forced himself up, one knee on the floor, his weapon trembling in his hands. Blood ran down his face, but his eyes never left the monster. He aimed again, whispering through clenched teeth. One last shot. The girl sensed him behind her. She felt his strength even in his weakness. Together, they were more than fear, more than chains. The leader raised both claws, fire building into a storm. "You cannot fight me," the girl screamed, unleashing all her power. The chamber filled with blinding light, crashing against the monster's flames. The two forces clashed, shaking the walls, splitting the floor, tearing the ceiling apart. In that instant, the human fired. The blast struck the leader's chest, hitting the crack in his armor where the girl's light had weakened him. The core. Inside, the monster shattered, fire spilling out like molten rivers. The leader roared in pain, his body breaking apart. He staggered, clawing at the air, his flames flickering. "No! This cannot be!" The girl pressed forward, her light pushing, ardor consuming the monster's shadow. "It ends now!" The final wave of light struck him, and the leader collapsed, his body falling in pieces of fire and smoke. The chamber shook one last time, then went silent. The girl dropped to her knees, exhausted, her glow fading. She turned to the human, who lay bleeding on the floor. She crawled to him, her hands trembling as she touched his broken armor. "Stay with me, please." He opened his eyes, weak but alive. His voice came soft, barely a whisper. "Told you, monsters don't win." Her tears fell again, but this time they were tears of relief. He had survived. They both had. Around them, the other aliens fled into the shadows, their courage broken. None dared face the light again. The chamber lay in ruins, but inside it, hope had been born. The human spirit silence filled the chamber. The flames were gone, the shadows broken, and the great leader's body lay scattered in smoking pieces across the floor. The chains that once held the girl had vanished, leaving only glowing dust that drifted into the air like fireflies. For the first time since her capture, she could breathe. Truly breathe. She turned, her glowing eyes searching the floor until they found him, the human. He lay on his back, his armor cracked and soaked with blood. His weapon was gone, burned out from the final strike, yet his chest rose and fell. Slowly, weakly, but alive. The girl crawled to him, her knees scraping against the broken metal floor. She pressed her hands against his armor, tears falling freely. "You saved me," she whispered. "Even when you were dying, you never stopped." His eyes opened, heavy but steady. He looked at her, and even in pain, there was a faint smile on his face. His voice was soft, hoarse, but strong enough to carry the words. "Because that's what we do." She blinked, confused. "We?" "Humans," he said, coughing. "We don't let monsters win." The words struck her heart like lightning. She had heard many things about humans, that they were weak, fragile, simple creatures. But none of those stories explained what she had just seen. None of them explained why one human would walk into the chamber of 100 enemies, bleeding and broken, just to save someone he had never met. The girl sat back, staring at him with awe. "You are not weak," she whispered. "Not at all." He gave a faint laugh, though it ended in a cough. "Don't tell the aliens that. They'd be very disappointed." Despite her tears, she smiled. Around them, the remaining aliens hid in the shadows, afraid to step closer. They whispered among themselves, their voices sharp with fear. The monster they had followed was gone. The chains they trusted had failed, and all because of one human. The girl rose slowly to her feet, still glowing faintly. She turned to face the watching aliens. Her voice rang across the chamber, louder and stronger than before. "Look at him," she said. "One human stood against all of you. He bled, he fought, he nearly died, and still he won." The aliens shifted, uneasy. None dared answer. The girl raised her hand, light spilling across the room. You said humans were nothing, fragile, weak, but he is stronger than any of you, not because of claws, not because of fire, but because he refuses to surrender. Her words echoed, sinking deep into their fearful hearts. The human pushed himself up slowly, groaning, but he stood beside her. His armor was broken, his body wounded, yet his eyes still burned with the same fire. He looked at the aliens, his voice calm but sharp as steel. "Remember this," he said. "Humans don't stop, we don't run, we don't kneel. You try to chain us, we break free. You try to crush us, we rise. And if you think this fight ends here," he pointed to the ashes of their leader, "then you don't know us at all." The aliens lowered their heads. Some turned and fled into the tunnels. Others dropped their weapons and bowed in silence. The girl felt her heart swell. She had never seen such power, not in weapons, not in armies, but in spirit. She looked at him, her voice soft. "You are only one man, but you made them afraid." He met her eyes, and for a moment there was no fire, no smoke, no broken chains, just a quiet understanding. "It's not about fear," he said. "It's about hope. You don't need to be born strong. You just need to stand when it matters." Her tears returned, but this time they were not tears of pain. They were tears of belief. She nodded, whispering, "Then I will stand too." Together they walked from the chamber, stepping over broken chains and ashes of fire. The tunnels beyond were dark, but the girl's light glowed brighter with every step. The human limped, his strength fading, but he refused to fall. Behind them, whispers spread among the defeated aliens. Whispers of the human who would not die. Whispers of the girl who broke her chains. Whispers of a spirit stronger than fire. Those whispers would grow. They would travel across the stars. They would become legend. And somewhere in the galaxy where humans still lived quietly on their small blue world, a new story was being written. One that would remind every alien empire that humanity was not weak, not fragile, not forgettable. They were something else entirely. Something unstoppable.